Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Jake Gordon and Alex Sword. We talked about it briefly yesterday. Jake, you were gone. Since you are a resident Georgia Bulldog, I wanted you to give your opinion on what happened this weekend. I mean, we were both super impressed. I know me and you both were kind of like, yeah, we think this could be a close game, but Georgia came out and dominated in all facets. The Florida fans, they were hyped up for this one. They thought they really had a chance not only to just cover and keep it close. You had Dan Mullen picking them to win. He's just a funny guy at this point. He is a funny personality.
Once again, I tagged him on Twitter. This is something I don't really like to do that often, but I had a few beverages and I had told him, I said, don't ever talk down to your daddy like that ever again, boy. Kirby ran you out of town. Just don't ever disrespect the father like that.
They dominated this one in all three facets. I mean, they had the block punt. They dominated offensively. You know, we talked a lot about Brock Bowers and how losing him would it. But, Carson Beck, I mean, he looked like a seasoned professional out there. That was probably the best he ever looked, and he did it without Brock Bowers. And we talked before how this could actually help Georgia in the long run if you do go get in Brock Bowers in the SEC championship in the playoffs. Just imagine how good Carson Beck is going to feel knowing that he's got all this better chemistry. Ladd McConkey looked great out there. Love it. What is it? Ra Thomas. I mean, this is the best receiving core. Delp looked fantastic. I mean, they've got so many weapons offensively. They don't know what to do with. And Carson Beck looks to be gaining more confidence by the week. And in that, Mike Bobo is gaining more confidence. And I said it yesterday, and Alex agreed. I mean, this just looks like a scary team that's headed, potentially at the very least to their third straight national championship.
Yeah, no, one of the biggest things for me, at least, when we were talking about how do you replace Brock Bowers, I said a big part of it was going to be 84. And of course, he just comes out and has a career day. Ladd McConkey is a third down machine. That's something that kid is always going to be beyond the sticks. He's going to pick it up when it matters. But one of the things that I think really turned the tide of this game was that fourth down direct snap play call. I think that was really when the game flipped on its head. But even before that, Florida was making some moves. That first drive, the scripted drive they had, they made some good plays. They had some good passes. But after that, man, it was all Carson Beck. I think this kid is going to be a legitimate NFL prospect. I think he's going to stay another year. I kind of hope he does. I think he needs to put on a little bit of weight, work on his deep ball a little bit. When you talk about intermediate throwers of the football, though, 10, 15 yards, 10, 20 yards, I mean, that kid will dice you up, man. It is just so hard to defend. You look, it feels like almost every play, Georgia's just picking up 15 yards on a pass over the middle, and he's delivering balls just right on target. It's really impressive to watch. Mike Bobo has really created a game plan that fits him well. And it's crazy to say that this might be one of the best offenses Georgia has ever had, even better than last year, even better than the year before.
Georgia's made me look like a genius against Florida. Everything I said that should happen, did happen. Bobo and Beck looked their absolute best. That was the best performance they put together, better than Kentucky. Because I think that Florida, presents a different challenge than, say, Kentucky in terms of the gravity of the situation. Not a lot of people have mentioned the offensive line. The offensive line has really come together over the last couple of weeks, and it pitched pretty much a shutout. And they're not even all the way healthy, still waiting for Mims to get back. So that group's only going to get better. And I went as far as Chase mentioned it. I said it yesterday, and I said it before this, that this is probably the best receiving core Georgia's had in my lifetime. And that even goes again with the A.J. Green. I'm just talking about the breadth of talent. They have so many guys. And the Brock Bowers injury, I said it leading up to the game, it could present an opportunity. A lot of Georgia fans were thinking, this is 1980. We just lost Herschel Walker. That's not the case. That's not college football today. One guy isn't an entire offense, especially a tight end. He's arguably the best player in college football. I'm not saying that, but positional value wise, he's not. And it just goes to show you right there. Hang on. I'll throw it back to you that Bobo and Beck, I'm not going to say Brock is obviously having Brock Bowers in the offense is obviously something that you want. But this presented an opportunity for Bobo and Beck to look at Florida, assess what they did poorly, attack those weaknesses, no matter who was getting the ball, and they executed that game plan. They didn't have in the back of their mind going, we need to get Brock the ball. We need to get our playmakers the ball. What they did is they took what Florida's defense gave them, and they ran them off the field. It was that simple.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep saying it. is Brock Bowers. He's like that concealed carry Glock, man. They really only pull him out when they need him. We've seen it a few times where they've just gone. You saw the second half of that Auburn game. He had 150 yards. You know why? Because they were losing. They were about to lose. And when it's time to turn it up, I mean, they will. I mean, they're going to get him involved. They're going to use him. But you won't see them just absolutely feed him and spam him until they need it. They did it against Alabama in the national championship 2 years ago. They've done it plenty of times. And for good reason, just how good he is. But yeah, you talk about building up chemistry with other guys. Marcus Rosemy-Jacksain, I think, is honestly one of the most underrated wide receivers in the entire country. He's having a really good year. But Georgia, they just spread the love, man. Like that, you'll see it's 10 different guys getting 2 or 3 catches instead of one guy just getting 10 or 11.
Yeah, I want to mention one thing. It's a little off base, but I just want to kind of check some Georgia fans. They've already, this game shut all those Georgia fans up from the earlier parts of the season saying Beck isn't it, Bobo isn't it, yada, yada, yada. This has more to do with Beck. Beck sat down with Tim Tebow before that game and had a very enlightening statement that I think a lot of people should, hear, resonate, and then apply it to every situation in the country. He basically said that he hasn't played real football in 2 years, 2 to 3 years. And that is such a big deal. Yes, he had garbage time, but that doesn't matter. It's basically been garbage time and practice, and that's it. And that's the case for a lot of these guys at the Georgias, at the Alabamas, at the Michigans, all the top-tier programs. These guys come in as freshmen, and you're probably not going to play at least 2 years and sometimes 3 years. So the fact of the matter is Beck was kind of learning how to play football again, as he said. And I think that now you're seeing, the fruits of his labor. He's got all the talent in the world. Physically, he's more talented than Stetson Bennett. Up here, everybody praises him around the program. I mean, he's got all the tools to be, like Jake said, a first-round pick. There's no doubt about it. This year, probably not. He could sneak in if he really lights it on fire, but I think his best case scenario in terms of, maximizing your draft position, probably coming back. But that fact remains that he had not played football in so many years that he was kind of learning how to play football while, trying to mesh a new offense with Bobo, all while learning to play the position again almost. So I think that, Georgia fans really are eating their words at this point when they were having those knee-jerk reactions at the beginning of the season. So this is not a surprise. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Yeah, no, when you say playing football, I think the better term would be competitive football because he did get a decent amount of snaps last year. But yes, you're right about that too. I mean, he played the whole second half of the national championship pretty much. But that wasn't competitive football, clearly. But no, and that was one of the things as everybody was talking about, you could really see it. There were a few times last year, Vanderbilt sticks out to me, which I know, whatever, it's Vanderbilt. But at home, you watch him take a snap. This is late in the fourth quarter. Game's already over. You don't really need to be doing all that. You watch him take a snap. Head snaps to the first read, head snaps to the second read, head snaps to the third read, delivers a ball in the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown. It's like, oh, this kid is actually like, he's making reads, he's making progressions. Like this is a real deal quarterback. And, I think that it just took a little bit of time. Clearly, I mean, you replaced your offensive coordinator, it's hard to adjust to things like that. It's hard. It's easy to not hit the ground running. But I think this team's clicking at the right time. They got 2 ranked opponents at home in a row, Missouri and Ole Miss. And I think they're going to get up for both of those games.
I think they're going to be up for both those games, but I do want to because I know we're going to talk about them later in the week, but I think all the questions that are around Beck and Bobo, we talked about how they were going to get better throughout the season. We've seen that come to fruition, and I think those questions have been put to bed. Like they're going to score points against anybody because you could talk about Ohio State. Maybe that poses a little bit of a problem in their defense and stuff like that, but there's no true elite defense that's going to stop an offense like that. Like they are going to score points against anybody, even in Ohio State, even in Alabama, if they meet in the SEC championship. What I'm now looking at Georgia and, what will solidify them as the clear favorite. I mean, I obviously think they're the favorite, but the clear favorite is what we see these next 2 weeks against Ole Miss and Missouri. They get them at home, and those are easily not even close. Like 10 times better than any offense that they played this year are those 2 offenses. Missouri can really sling it around the yard. They're one of the best offenses in the country. Ole Miss, obviously, we saw what they did to LSU. They can score on anybody. So there's still kind of, if there's one lingering, hey, prove it here, it's still like against an elite passing offense. And I think they're going to have that opportunity over the next 2 weeks.
Once again, though, they continue to just play their best football whenever they're actually it appears that they're actually going to be challenged. You come out, you play a stinker against Vanderbilt, then you come out and beat Kentucky basically lifeless. One of the things that I think is most interesting too, or I think that could be their biggest problem, is this is undoubtedly the least amount of of a rushing attack we've seen out of a Georgia team in a long time. I mean, they are absolutely living and dying by the pass, which is something that hasn't been seen in a while. And they do have Dejon Edwards, who has been fantastic this year, but he's been banged up. Kendall Milton's been hurt. I mean, they got Dylan Bell, a wide receiver back there, taking a lot of carries. So, just the fact that they're not a traditional, established to run Georgia team, they're getting out there and they're saying, let's throw it around a little bit. Let's air it out. I think that's maybe something that could cause issues, but hey, so far I haven't seen any problems.
Today's college football, good offenses beat good defenses every single day of the week. It doesn't matter. That's just the state of college football. If you could score points, you can win a national championship. Georgia's just doing it in a different way than we've become accustomed to. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, they look good. I don't think either of these two games
really
that they have coming up are going to be too close. I think, maybe they cover spreads, but these spreads are going to be like 14, 15, 16 points. We already see Missouri at 16 points. Maybe Missouri covers. They don't have a chance of winning that game. Coming up after the break, the Falcons make a trade addressing their defensive line after the Grady Jarrett injury.